Hello and welcome to a very special Seetec podcast, and it's all about Black History Month. I'm Shay, and today I've got with me Elaine.
Hi, I'm Elaine King. I'm the Integration Manager for Seetec for London area.
Thank you, Elaine. And David.
I'm David. I am an employment advisor in Bristol.
The plan for today is for us to talk about a few things in relation to Black History Month, and we're going to go straight into it with a topic that we looked at when we caught up with Ajarie, who's a senior HR consultant here at Seetec. So the question that we put to Ajarie was, looking at future generations and how things can be for them, do we think that racism is on the decline?
My daughter started a new school, and I've just recently dealt with a situation where she was called a name that was inappropriate. And she's 11. And so, whilst the boy is being reprimanded, whilst he is, under a watchful eye of the school and being addressed regarding his behavior, he's 11. Where is that coming from? So that's my concern, that these children, they don't just come out and say it, because judging from what happened, I'm just like, how do you get from there to there unless you're already hearing it in your surroundings? And that is the problem. These kids hear it from somewhere, so it goes back to the parents, and the parents goes back to their parents. It's inbuilt in them because of what they're hearing and their surroundings and environment. So it's a worry that it will always be there, but it's just about how you manage it and just make sure that actually it's not good enough, won't tolerate it, don't do it, and re-educating children that this is not acceptable. And until we can do that and understand that, it may not necessarily be the child, even though they've said it out of their mouth, where is it coming from? We need to just cut it off at the root, and just in addressing the child, because you've got to phone the parents. You just address the parents and say, this is not happening. It will not happen unless making them aware of the stance and your standing. And I think that's what we have to do. Make sure we make people aware of where we stand and what we believe in. And at the end of the day, anything other than that is not acceptable. So, and I'm not going to stand and cower in the background and say, oh, this is what's happened. And I think there's a saying about snitches get stitches and things like that. And, oh, mum, you told, and no, you stand up for who you are. You are who you are, and you be proud of who you are. And don't let anybody tell you that telling or bringing to the attention of an adult that, it's a bad thing. No, it's not. It's not, because these things have to be nipped in the bud and they need to be squashed.
So that was Ajarie talking about a very real experience, her daughter's recent experience of racism from one of her peers at school. What did you make of that?
One very important point, which I think she touched on it later, is that the boy was dealt with, but there was nothing asked about her daughter, how she felt, or the support for her daughter, how it made her felt, because she could have easily heard that word, not said anything about it, and not said anything to her mum, and took it home, and it's just festering in the background and not speaking about it. I think there should be more emphasis on the person who was called that name, at least to give them counselling to think how they felt, because an 11-year-old young girl, harbouring what is said to her growing up throughout life could have a detrimental impact on her in later years.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, David. If I can bring you in, Elaine, have you got any views on what we've just heard?
Well, to be fair, a couple of things that comes to my mind immediately is the school. And I think it should be very transparent how they dealt with it and how they would deal with issues like that. But it also takes me back to when I was very, very young, went into school for the very first day. And I saw all the kids running and screaming. And it's my first day at school. And I'm so excited. And I'm running and I'm screaming. And they're running, they're screaming, I'm chasing. And I thought we were playing a game until they kept on saying, there's the black girl, there's the black girl. I was born in Stoke-on-Trent. So my father came to the UK as a coal miner. So that's where we ended up in Stoke-on-Trent. So in school, there was nobody looking like me. And but I didn't know there was a difference. And I'm running, still looking and saying, where's the black girl? Where's the black girl? And I couldn't find her. So when I went home the night and I spoke to my parents and I was saying, Mom and Dad, this is what happened at school. We were trying to find the black girl and I couldn't find the black girl. And it didn't dawn on them that they had to educate me before I went into school. And this is when I was 5 years old. And I never, ever, ever forgot it. But what that has done, and I hope it would do the same for Adri's daughter, it shaped me. And my father made sure that I was very strong, very driven, never depending on anybody, be independent. But the best way you can hurt somebody is by excelling and being the best you can. So you didn't have to fight with words and you didn't have to fight with your fists. Just excel at school. And that has remained with me all my life. So I would encourage Adri to do some homework with her daughter as well. And also for the school to understand, what does this mean? What is the effect? Because for me, I'm now young 20s and I've never, ever forgotten that.
And it goes back to me saying that it has an impact on your life, how many ever years on in your young life, I must say.
In my young life. Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. But you see, what that also did is to shape me, because I got the opportunity to leave the UK and I went to a country which, from my parents, 4 parents, Barbados, beautiful country, high literacy rate, 98%, I must say, excellent education system. And I went there as an adult. And what happened to me in that phase of my life, I was able to work hard, get to the top, to travel internationally and not have to deal with the issue of colour. I only remembered again that I was a person of colour. I don't like the word black. I would say a person of colour when I came back to the UK in 2001. So then you approach different types of barriers, don't you? Like the glass ceiling and things like that.
Can I bring you back to that person of colour? For me, I prefer black, not a person of colour. Because when you're saying it brings you back to the word that was used probably in the 60s, is coloured. Okay? And that is unacceptable for somebody to call you coloured now. So I would, I personally, there's nothing against how you want to be yourself, but I'd personally say black. It's
personal, as you said.
Yeah.
I don't believe who told me that I was black. It wasn't anybody that looked like me that told me that I was black. I didn't even know I had a colour until I went to school. You see? So I don't accept that I am black. I accept, first and foremost, I'm a human being. I'm a highly educated person. I'm a female, not that the gender matters, but more importantly, I'm a person. So I don't even like the concept of colour. And if I did have to use a colour, I would say a person of colour, because it could be any range, an Arab, Mediterranean. You see, it could be anybody. I just don't like the pigeonhole. Okay. I am a very free spirit. Don't like the pigeonhole.
And thank you both for your views and the commentary that you've just given. I'd just like to remind our listeners that it is a little bit noisy here. We're in a very buzzing Seetec office here in Uxbridge. But keeping it on topic, with us having David saying he prefers the term black, and with Elaine saying that you don't like that term, how difficult do you think that makes it for other colleagues around us here at Seetec?
it does become difficult at times when participants and colleagues looking at you and they don't want to say black because they think that they're going to offend you. I just tend to tell them, you can say I'm black because I am black. Or if somebody calls into the office, my term is I'm the black guy with a big hat on, and they distinctively know who they're talking about. I can't be missed in my office. It does crop up from time to time, but if you explain and educate, then you're getting through to people. I think that's the most powerfulest thing that we can do is educate. If somebody doesn't know something, we need to educate them.
Well, let me throw a spanner in the works there. Why could they not describe me? That very intelligent young lady that speaks so well? Why can't I be described in those terms? Why must I be described the black lady that wears purple lipstick from time to time that matches her outfit? I am a person, first and foremost, a highly educated person, a very strong person, a fun person. Why couldn't you describe me by my personality? That lady, she's always laughing, always running a joke. Why can't I be described in those terms?
So I'll let you in on something. So when I'm talking about you, Elaine, I do refer to you as you've referred to yourself as the very well-spoken lady. Okay, very well-spoken, very polite and professional. And when I'm referring to David, I would always say the chap that's going to give you the warmest welcome, because that's what I get from you every time I see you.
Perfect.
Going back to Elaine as well, saying that, I used to work in an office and taking telephone calls and for participants and people to come in and see me. On one occasion, I spoke to a lady on the phone, very helpful, gave her all the information that she wanted, and she was coming into the office. And she says, when I come in, who do I ask for? And I said, just ask for David Samuels. Okay. Yep. So she's come in the office now, come into reception. She says, can I speak to David Samuels, please? And I said, yeah, I'm David Samuels. And she goes, no, the gentleman that I spoke to on the telephone. I said, no, I am the gentleman that you spoke to on the telephone. Mm-hmm. I am David Samuels. And she turned around and says, I don't want to be seen by you. Can I speak to your manager, please? And I said, that's not a problem. It's okay. But it was nice speaking to you. And I went off and got my manager. So that's the flip side to what you're saying, because inevitably I speak differently on the telephone to my appearance.
Oh, right. I get that.
Because the audience can't see me now. But obviously, you're hearing me speaking. Obviously, I'm a person of color, but you'll just tend to go in on my voice and what you're hearing now.
So with the conversation with Agery, and to sort of continue this topic here, we were talking about tips for allies, okay? And when we put a question to Agery about what tips do we have for colleagues who want to know more, but like me sometimes don't want to put their foot in it, okay? What tips would you give to them? And this is what Agery has had to say.
I would say just be honest and transparent. That's the only thing that we can do. Go to them and ask them questions honestly and openly. If you are somebody with any decency, you will know that it's coming from a place of genuine interest. And so therefore, you're not going to want to tear anyone down for asking the wrong question or asking in an incorrect way. And if they do, that's your chance to educate someone and say, well, actually, if you say it this way, then it would be considered offensive. However, if you were to put it like this, then they wouldn't be offended. And it's just as simple as that. And that is education right there. And, for the ones that take us up on those offers, then take my hats off to them, because it's not easy, especially when you know yourself that you're not as clued up as maybe you should be, because this is Black History's been going on for a while now. It's not something that's just come in like kind of in the last decade. It's been ongoing. And so some people may feel embarrassed that they don't know. I mean, me personally, sometimes I feel I don't know enough as well on myself, and I am of ethnic origin. So there's always something to learn. There's always something to be educated about. but it's just about the willingness to learn and the willingness to listen. That's what I say.
And so that's some top tips from Asia, our senior HR consultant at Seetec. And her main tip there was, for anyone who wants to know more without offending anyone, is just to be honest and transparent.
Yeah, just ask, basically. A lot of people tippy-toe around me a bit, obviously my appearance, and they just ask, what does it symbolize? You know, what is it about? And then I educate them and I let them know, and then I let them know the levels of my appearances, because like with everything, every religion, whatever race, there's always layers to it and there's always depths to it. So without you speaking or asking people, you know, what it's about, you're not going to know.
Thank you, David. I'm just going to come to Elaine now.
I think it's again because of ignorance, and use the phrase ignorance in the well-meaning way, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think sometimes as human beings, as personalities, I have a lot of people in my family. We're very diverse, very mixed. In fact, we had a funeral quite recently, and about 30% of my extended family are people of white descent. So the cultural merging has already taken place at a very large level there. So for me, I just see things very differently. The people that I know and I speak to at work, even in the business, my job is integration. Mm-hmm. So there's so many people I go out and I see, and they are marveled at your personality, how you speak, how you dress. So you package yourself in a way that sometimes for them, they see it as less, this one may sound controversial, less threatening, because somehow I think it's a fear factor. You sometimes are fearful of the things you don't know or you don't understand, and therefore this is where you make the little bloops and blunders and you say the wrong thing. And technically, if we just treated everybody like a human being, I don't care what colour, just that we're a human being. And I think from there, you don't have to be thinking of being politically correct, because what you say from the heart.
Thanks for your thoughts on that. It's nice to have a mixture of opinions. I'd like to turn to something more recent events, and I want to ask you both how firstly you felt about the riots that had happened earlier this year, around about election time, summertime, where you were, how you felt when that main day of rioting was happening on the Monday and that week. If I can come to you first, Elaine.
For me, believe it or not, instinctively, I picked up the phone and I called my nephews in Birmingham because, you know, technically I'm from Birmingham and I was in London at the time. And I called my nephews just to make sure, you safe, is everything okay? Stay near to home, call in. But to be honest, there was a sense of less fear because it was more, and now this one sounds sensitive, it wasn't really targeted at black people initially, was it really? So it was really targeted at Asians. So therefore, if it was reversed and it was targeted at people of colour, well, black, I would have responded differently. So the fear factor, I didn't have that factor, but I still felt the need to pick up the phone and just call my nephews and say, you know, don't be gallivanting all over the place, stay near to home, because you want them to be safe. Because when people riot with that crowd mentality, anybody that doesn't look like them will be dragged into the fray. So for me, I was just concerned of them. But for myself, I didn't see or have that sense of fear personally.
David, just to bring you into this part about the riots, I want to ask a little bit about, as well as your thoughts and feelings at the time, how was it like working at Seetec? Tell me about your experience.
It was a bit up and down because I was in one of the cities that had riots and planned riots. And on the day that they had a planned riot in Bristol, starting, I think it was like midday, Seetec and my business manager took the opportunity to make sure that the welfare of his staff was okay. Yes. So we actually closed the office early and went home because it was impacted us traveling home. And obviously people, with having people of colour there, the safety of those individuals getting home. So Seetec took a decision to send us home early.
In hindsight, do you feel that was enough? Was there any other support offered to you?
It was enough as much as a business can do for anybody. If you put yourself in as a business owner, personally, I would have, if there was going to be riots that day, I would have said work from home that day, right? Not just that afternoon. It would have been, because it was well documented that there was going to be marches on that day. It could have taken a decision to say, okay, plan marches from the night before. Everybody take their laptops home and you can work from home. But obviously, with hindsight, it's
Can I just jump in quickly? Because I do want to say, I really felt Seetec did a really good thing with their marketing department or communications department, because the email came out and I thought, oh, that was nice. I wasn't expecting that. Mm-hmm. And then our director, Richard Spalding, he made sure he sent out an additional email and was very caring. And for me, I felt safe because I was in London and a lot of people look like me in London. And also the team that I work around it's a very diverse team. So there was comfort there. But I really thought Seetec did what a lot of organisations didn't even think of doing. So I do take my hat off to them on that occasion.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Thank you both. And whilst we're on the topic, let's talk about and tackle the elephant in the room here. So at Seetec, we're all on a journey, right? And this podcast is a first for us around Black History Month. The question is, I suppose, are we doing enough? And we put that question to Agery, and we want to know, should we rely on 1 month of the year to get the message out there, or is there more that we could be doing as a company to ensure that we're heading in the right direction?
As you said, we are on a journey. Things seem to be improving. But I believe that listening needs to happen a bit more. We need to see people of colour in more senior positions. And I don't know how they are recruiting to those positions. But I think, seeing people on the Employee Champions Council, senior positions, middle management, I think seeing them throughout the business, that will give us a better opportunity to think, okay, right, I see it. Because we are supporting diverse groups, I just think there should be a reflection of that in a senior level.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you, what's the one thing that Seetec could do to
if I could go back
help
to,
us on this journey?
We always say October is Black History Month. Every month is a Black History Month. I don't see why they should just have it specifically in October. I don't know too much about it, but I don't know what happened in October for it to be October's Black History Month. Okay. I just wanted to say that, sorry.
Thank you. So more celebration and recognition.
Of course, yeah. Definitely. I work in a part of the country where, it's diverse down there, but not as diverse as London. I get where Avery was coming from with your staff members should have, I don't know, percentage that you could put on it, 50%, 60% if you're dealing with people from ethnic backgrounds, that should mirror of your staff members. Because if you think that, I'm going to use my words carefully here and I don't want to upset anybody. We can use black and white. If I had a white person who's just come out of, say, university doing a criminology degree and they sit down in front of me, I'm not exactly educated to that level. What or how could I help that person? That would be the first thing that I'm thinking of. So I think, we should be mirroring the staff members to the group of participants that we're looking to get back into work.
Just to bring in Elaine then, so you're predominantly based in a more sort of diverse office setting, much better representation from what I can see. What are your views on it?
Well, my views are going to be a little radical here because
go for it.
One of the first stakeholder when I first came to Seetec. So you're talking back in 2021. And I had a meeting with him, and I guess he was very surprised to see me come to see him. And I said, yes. So he said, well, what's your management team looking like at Seetec Plus? And I said, in what regard? He said, in terms of diversity. So I said, well, in our office, and I started to talk about the office. He said, no. You can really know how diversity really sits within an organization when you look at the higher echelon. So if the higher echelon is a diverse executive senior management team, that is a diverse organization. So, and I totally agree. And because of that, I would say that Seetec still has a ways to go. We have a couple of people at the executive level, but clearly not enough to represent such a national organisation such as Seetec, with the knowledge and expertise that we have, with the client base that we service. And if there are problems or difficulties at the higher level, when I look up, there's supposed to be somebody that I feel safe with. And I remember, looking around, there weren't that many people. Actually, there was nobody at that time when I needed to, look at someone. There was no one at that time. I think it's a little better, but I've been here now 3.5 years, and I think that the speed factor needs to increase because there's too many highly educated people of colour that can fill the position and in the sector, and more importantly, to filter down where people at the front level feel safe that they're people at the higher level. So it gives them the opportunity to grow and think big and have dreams as well.
So can I just jump in there? So you've just given me not an idea, it's just a light bulb moment now. Obviously, we're people of colour, and there are a lot of black businesses out there. Do you think us as an organisation, with the participant base that we do have, do you think we're not reaching out to those black businesses to try and help them with their staff as well?
Well, in London, and I do the integration for London, for me, a lot of the people that I interact with are people of colour because that's the community that I work with. So I think we're already doing it here in London.
Okay.
So we're coming up to the bit where we've got to start wrapping up a little bit. But before we start that, what one message would you want listeners to take away from this podcast?
For me, just listen to it with an open mind. And if you do have, anybody who needs to find out anything about any culture, just ask. Just all I would say is just ask and just educate yourself.
Thank you, David. Elaine?
For me, it would be just a person is a person. See beyond the colour. Look at the person's mind, the person's passion, their intellect. Judge the person on the qualities they have, not on the colour of the skin.
I love
Shay,
it.
Can I just one thing before I go? And please, can you just end it after this? Jamaica is the biggest Caribbean island out there. I just want to put it out there. Thank you very much, listeners.
Not the most educated, though.
Thank you both for those. Nice bit of humour towards the end.
You're going to get some flack for that now, Miss Bayesian.
So I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank our listeners for tuning in and listening to us talk about Black History Month and important topics to us. I'd like to thank you both for coming along and taking part. So thank you, David, and thank you, Elaine.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That's a wrap from me. I'm Shay, and thank you very much once again.